You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds! Birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Now, that's how you drive. From now on, that's how you drive.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
I'm just trying... Oh, I fucked it up! How many years have we been doing this podcast? I was so excited about my quote. Do it again.
All right. And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, wife dork.
I'm just trying to bring some levity to this shit. I'll go fuck myself.
And Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
Joe Holler couldn't find his own ass if somebody rammed it full of radium and gave him a Geiger counter.
Ooh. And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the disco dork. My uncle flew a drone in the army, and now he yells in his sleep and has crazy diarrhea. Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast.
Is that from Good Boys?
That is from Good Boys.
Made me laugh.
That movie's fucking great.
Really?
Oh, yeah, that's
That
right.
movie's hilarious.
Yeah, you saw it. You finally saw it.
Great.
It's funny.
It's funny as
You
shit.
said it was funny. No, we haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen it? Okay.
You, Brian, said it was
Yeah.
funny, but you undersold it. Darren's saying it's great.
Well, because I told you my experience watching it, because the
Yeah.
crowd, like you say, they were primed to watch it, and they just started laughing literally from the first frame. I'm like, it's wait for the jokes to actually happen. So I don't know, but once it picked up,
The part when they were in the park and they did the citizen's arrest, and he was like this, and he's like, did you just did you just reload your imaginary gun?
yeah, that. No, but I'm talking about like the opening scene in the bedroom, and like everybody just started laughing. I'm like, dude, I haven't seen the title card.
Brian
yet.
just wasn't primed for a comedy when he went into his comedy. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I was sitting there as a critic. I was like, okay, show me the laughs.
Oh, don't Ehrlich Good Boys,
Oh
man.
no, the
You
Ehrlich
gotta-
dork.
You gotta take off that thinking cap
Yeah.
before you go
Yeah.
into a comedy.
Yeah, true.
Brad and I saw a 3 p.m. screening of It, and we had someone sitting next to us who thought he was a Saturday night screening, and he was audibly gasping and approving, and at points disapproving. Like, he went through a whole emotional
It's
roller
3
coaster.
o'clock in the afternoon. He gets the ticket right next to us in the second row. He has the entire row to choose from.
No room for the Holy Ghost.
wow.
Yeah.
We might as well have held hands, me and the stranger.
And, you know, you're at the Alamo. One of the great things about the Alamo is that you can order a meal and enjoy your meal. Lisa and I got some It-themed cocktails. They were actually only okay.
They
and
were strong,
He
though.
ordered the quinoa bowl. We know because he was talking like he was, you know, in a baseball stadium. And he ate that quinoa bowl like the end was coming.
My misophonia, like, that was the scariest thing happening.
It was so
How loud
loud.
he was eating.
And it was funny because Amanda at the Alamo Drafthouse in Ashburn was
One
our
of our
server.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda. I went out to use the restroom, and she came up to me. She's like, "Do you see what the guy next to you is writing on his notes? You know, because he puts up an
Yeah.
order card, and the order card note is like, this movie is not as good as the first movie. Why can't this movie be better?" And that's what he's writing. So she has to come. You know, he puts up an order card. She runs down to pick up the order card to take his order, and it's just a note about the content of the film.
What?
I did that by accident one time.
Really?
Yeah, because I was taking notes on the movie, and I can't remember what the movie was, but there was a child in it whose parents were killed or something.
Okay.
And I wrote on a piece of paper, like, why isn't this child Batman? And I wrote that down because I wanted to discuss it with Brad later. And then we ordered cookies, and we're like, why aren't these cookies coming? And it turns out that I put up the Batman card.
Whoops.
And they agreed that the child should have
forgot
been
about
Batman,
that.
but I'm like, was that eccentric fun or was that eccentric crazy?
Anyway, this guy, very audible in his eating, very audible in his
Disapproval of it.
disapproval of it. So
All right.
Oh well.
He left in a huff.
But you're
during
gonna have
the
to
credits.
wait to hear our thoughts until the end of this episode or
Yep.
the midway point.
Yeah.
But
Because
I
that is our
rate
review
that
cast.
guy's eating style 0 out of 0 stars. No stars for
Aw.
that.
It's a salad. How can you be so loud?
Chew with your
Sounds
mouth
can be
closed.
loud. Sounds can be loud.
All that
Crunchy.
Well, if
croutons.
you got romaine lettuce, yeah, but
Yeah,
from my
romaine.
understanding, the quinoa bowl is they don't.
It's like quinoa and then a few leaves.
yeah,
Yeah.
like spinach leaves, right, or something like that.
Chewing with your mouth open.
It's an arugula situation.
All right, Brian Young, you've had a busy last couple of days, from my understanding. You come in here smelling like a foot.
Oh, thank
from
you,
a
sir.
I
shoot.
think he smells really manly. I think he's bringing something really wonderful
I
into the
wasn't
dork
saying
cave.
there was a bad thing. It could be a man foot.
I mean,
just saying.
I'm gonna wear it with pride because I have to. Because
I mean, you do have your Chris Evans Captain America shirt on.
I'm pretty sure you could shower. You could take a shower. They would let you use the shower in there with Batman.
And
yeah,
expel of this gorgeous musk he's bringing. No, thank you.
Don't wash the
You're
sheen
gonna
off.
give Brian a complex.
No, I just want to give him a
I'm
bath.
gonna give him
it's like-
a complex of being super dreamy
is it
because I'm
good,
into it.
bad, good, bad? Like, I don't know. I'm
No,
all over.
it's great. It's great. Dude, I've known you for a long time. I've smelled you in a myriad of odors. So
Yeah, you're probably
I
could
would
say, yeah.
like if they were gonna bottle this, I would invest in it.
you would.
It'll be the new fragrance of the new Axe body spray.
Oh, did Turtle Dork?
I
Ew,
wonder-
This doesn't sound good.
Can our listeners tell that we're all drinking Amaretto sours?
Maybe.
Maybe.
We are sugared up and alcohol down.
Okay, before we lose any more listeners,
Yeah.
Brian, how was your week in Dork?
Well, my weekend dork was good. It was really, really good. I know, Brad, you might talk a little bit about Genre Blast, which was a blast. Thank you to Andy and Nathan and Chad and everybody there. But for me, the trailer dropped for Bad Boys for Life.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, I've talked about this on the podcast before, and if you've seen my reaction, I have said that for me, and this is strictly for me, this is my Star Wars. This is my Marvel. This is everything to me. I have waited 16 years for this, and to finally have the trailer drop, I was hyper. I texted Darren when it dropped because I was home. I was cleaning my apartment. And I was on Instagram, and I follow Will Smith on Instagram.
As
and
everyone should.
actually,
Great life choice.
Yeah, actually, his Instagram account is phenomenal. I don't know who he has on his team, but his videos are
I have to double check, but I may follow the whole Smith family.
okay. Yeah. They're awesome. I mean, him, Jada, everybody.
Life goals.
Yeah. And I started watching the beginning of it because it looked like a car commercial. And I just thought, like, okay, maybe this is just a promo for, okay, they're announcing that the trailer's coming in like this Thursday or so, or next week. And it started playing. And I was like, oh shit, this is the actual trailer. And I was like, oh shit. And I literally started hyperventilating. And I was like, first thing I texted, I was like, dude,
Did you stop it?
Stop what?
The trailer, so you can do the reaction.
Yeah.
Or did
Yeah.
you?
No. Once I knew it was the actual trailer, I stopped it.
He's only giving us the genuine shit. Those are original reactions.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Darren looks downful.
no.
For this one I believe him.
No.
The other ones, I'm just saying.
They're all. I watch them
That Boss
for the first
Baby
time.
one, that was the realness.
Yeah. But this was a special one. This was special. This one was special. And so yeah, I saw it, and I gotta say, okay, so I was thoroughly pleased. I was pleasantly surprised. I was nervous about watching this to find out what kind of take, knowing that Michael Bay wasn't directing this, and the directors of the third one, they are two gentlemen from, I think, of Muslim descent, Adil El Arbi and Bilal Falah. And I know they've done some TV. They directed some episodes of Snowfall. They've done some independent films. So I was like, all right, let me see what these people are going to do here. And I have to say, they do a good job of kind of emulating Michael Bay's style.
I thought they did a great job.
Me too. From what I saw in the trailer, I thought
Yeah.
they did a good job because they really, because the trailer felt like Bad Boys, and it felt like Martin Lawrence and Will Smith still have that chemistry together. And from the reaction that I've seen online, it was it kind of warmed my heart to know that a lot of people were responding positively to the return of these characters coming back.
You don't want a Last Jedi situation with this movie.
No. And it looks like it can be a lot of fun. And like I said, I love these two together. And I talked about how much I've loved Bad Boys. And since '95, when they came together, when like just two of my favorite sitcoms, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Martin, and to see them come together in '95 was like two of your biggest actors, like Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks, coming together in a movie together.
God.
I'm
So glad you're speaking my language. Bring those Toms together.
Yeah, that's what it was like.
I don't even know what that movie would look like.
Great.
Would it? I don't know.
It would just look like me with my pockets turned outward. Like, take my money.
Yeah.
Strange combo. Anyway.
It was, but that's how it was for me. Like, these was just like the two biggest like TV sitcom stars that I just loved. And to see them come together in a movie.
It was weird in the day. Like,
Yeah.
You were like, well, this Fresh Prince and Martin?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, because especially in the 90s, that you're like, well, there has to be a white one, right? Like, this should, like, that's
Yeah,
the way
his
it
name's
was.
Joey Pantoliano.
Well, it's funny though, because Bad Boys was originally pitched to star Dana Carvey and John Lovitz.
Thank the Lord.
Wow.
I
would
just
watch
found
that movie.
religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would.
I like me some Dana Carvey.
That
He's been
era?
on the
No.
Conan podcast.
Yeah. So I was extremely, and like I said, I wanted to talk about this because it just brings me so much joy. And I know there might be a little trepidation from some people thinking it may have been too long for this movie to come out. But
That's what they
No
said about
such-
Twin Peaks: The Return,
No
man.
such thing.
was that any good?
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, perfect. Thank
I've been
you.
told.
Okay. So I have hope. Fingers crossed.
Or it's Dumb and Dumber 2 or whatever.
No, don't say that.
Or
Don't say
Zoolander
that.
2.
Don't say
Oh man, God
But,
damn, that one hurt.
But the only thing that really bothered me, and I talked to you a little bit about this, Darren, like when there was some stuff like the behind the scenes photos, was like Martin is getting too much fat shaming, and that because like he is a little chubby in the face, but man,
He's not the rail that he once was.
no,
but who is?
He's not. And I'm like, okay, but it's not going to take away. For me, it's just the chemistry between the two of them and seeing the direction of the action and what these guys are going to bring to it. And if you give me that chemistry, I'm all in. But I don't know, like now with Twitter and film Twitter and how people like to rag on people, I don't know. Like, I know Martin hasn't been around lately, but it's like the fat shaming, I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Like, come on. Okay.
Yeah,
He's
it's
getting
messed
older.
up.
He's
It's
old.
stupid.
He's
the
older,
internet, man.
He's older, man.
And there's no size limit to being a bad boy.
Thank you.
You can be a bad boy at any fluffiness.
Thank God.
Yes. Yes, Brad. Yes. So yeah, I mean that's my weekend dork. Everybody knows how excited I am. It is a January release. Some people think that's a little, but I mean now, this isn't like January in the 90s.
Nope.
We know that nowadays you gotta take advantage of certain times on the
January
calendar.
actually is a great year to release a movie now.
It really is.
There have been January movies that have destroyed at the box office.
Absolutely.
They're usually right-wing nut job films like Lone Survivor or American Sniper.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Maybe Bad Boys 3 is that in disguise.
But people are spending money in January, and if
They
Bad
are.
Boys for Life is great, it can make a ton of cash.
Absolutely.
They're
And
spending
this
them
is
AMC gift cards that's in your Christmas stocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's on Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, so it's on the extended weekend.
cool.
So I can't wait.
But it's going to be weird because it is in January. We're going to do at the end of the year our most anticipated films of the next year, 2020. And of course, that number one is going to be Brian is going to be Bad Boys for Life.
Pretty much, you nailed it.
You should probably do 6 films when we do that episode and just go like, look,
True.
Bad Boys is number one.
I know.
And then these are the 5 others
I know.
that fall behind
But
Bad
it's so
Boys.
weird that literally my most anticipated movie will be coming out literally 3 weeks into the new year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, good. So I
done
can
for
get
the
that
year.
one. I can get that one out the way and just focus on
Well, we
everything
have
else.
our Fistful of Fall anticipation coming out. Maybe you should just throw that on there.
Yeah.
You're a
that's
stickler. You're a
yeah.
January is super not fall.
It's winter.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I think
December is
stretching
pushing it. Yeah, December's pushing
I was going
it.
to say, does December count?
Yes,
I
December
mean-
counts.
But
according to Entertainment Weekly.
I
It
have
counts.
a Christmas film. Spoilers. I have a Christmas
I have
film.
a Christmas film on mine too.
Yeah, yeah.
The Emilia Clarke one.
No guessies.
Oh,
What's that new one? Black Christmas.
Yeah, Black Christmas, the second remake of that film.
movie
I'm
looks-
super curious about it.
yeah.
Oh, Brian, it might be on my top 5.
Black
Of the
Christmas.
year?
Black Christmas might be. No, the Fall Anticipation.
Oh.
Listeners are just going to have to stay
You saw
tuned.
you do a trailer reaction to that one?
No, I watched it, but I should
like,
have
"Fuck that
because
movie."
no, because it literally gives everything away.
It does.
Oh,
it
does
does. But it's radically. Well, we're going to
Okay,
just tune
all right,
into
we'll-
our Fall
wait.
Anticipation. It's probably on somebody's.
We'll
Okay.
wait. We'll wait.
My
But-
number one question that's in my heart right now that I need to express is: should I watch Bad Boys 1? And is there a 2?
yeah.
The answer is yes. Yes.
I've never seen any Bad Boys films.
Oh, still, you were supposed to.
Well, we had that list. Remember, we did that resolution where we
I-
gave each other like
Yeah, and then because
like-
you never watch anything anyone else gives you, everyone else said, "Well, I'm not going to watch
Well,
Brian's
no
recommendation."
Where's my Hitchcock box set, Brian?
Oh God, I was trying to avoid that. I'm so sorry. But no, I mean, I don't know if you would like them, but I would recommend you watch them. Yeah.
We're going to do it. We're going
Okay.
to do it. I think Lisa would really like the first one in
Okay.
particular. The second one, which is the better one,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, is incredibly long.
Yeah.
And Lisa, as we know, is not really into the action-y
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So she might get a little bored in the second one. But I think the first one, it has Téa Leone. You're looking for a white lady? Téa Leone.
They do make me feel safe.
But you know what though? To go to that point, as far as Lisa not really liking like too much action though,
yeah.
for the most part, if I'm not mistaken, and because it's been a while since I've seen Bad Boys 2, for most of those action scenes, Will and Martin are
Quipping.
in them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Are
yeah.
they
So
quipping?
she's, I think she's gonna be, she's gonna gravitate towards their chemistry, so that might get her through
That
like,
freeway chase is so good.
So good,
and
man.
they are great in
It's-
it, Lisa.
I don't know if that's still it's been topped yet.
Yeah.
I don't know that has been
Yeah.
topped yet. It's amazing.
But I mean, I'm giving kudos to at least the trailer. It feels like they're doing a lot of practical stuff. I mean, I know because my biggest thing is like a lot of blue and green screen, but it feels like, at least from what I'm seeing so far, it definitely feels like they are trying to kind of copy Michael Bay's style. But I don't see that as a negative as of yet. But I think you need that for this type of franchise to really,
I think it will be weird.
yeah.
It will be weird.
Not
But whether
having-
it's weird great or weird bad, that's what we're waiting to
and
see.
either way,
You're excited.
I'm excited. I have my Regal Unlimited. This is going to be like how Darren was with BVS and seeing it over and over. I guarantee you I will be seeing this movie a lot.
Listeners, if you have not seen the Turtle Dork's reaction to this trailer, you really need to. And you know, Brian does reactions to practically everything, not Black Christmas because he's so darn snooty about horror films.
Are you becoming
You know,
David Ehrlich, the
yeah,
trailer reaction?
He's inspired me. He's inspired me.
But you should be watching all of Brian's, but you definitely should watch his Bad Boys for Life trailer reaction. It is legit heartwarming.
Oh man, so good.
And that
so
includes
good.
you, Lisa.
I will.
So I hope the Alamo, you know how they do like the little marathons? Maybe, hopefully, if they
I'd buy a ticket for that shit.
if they do
Oh, my
one,
Oh yeah.
I will be there front row.
I would be honored to sit anywhere near you during that.
Oh my
We should
God.
definitely try to all watch it with Brian. Whether that means we have to drive out to Maryland or wherever,
Yeah.
we should all be there for Brian in his time.
And we should all wear matching outfits, and we should all hold hands.
And we should bring tissues, whether it's for crying or the other thing.
Oh. Blow you in your nose?
Sure.
Wiping your butt?
His sausage nose.
Oh,
Ooh.
all right. Lisa, how was your week in Dork?
My week in Dork was wonderful, as per usual. I did get to see a film that I had been greatly anticipating. It was something that I had missed at Sundance, but I have been so in love with this trailer, and I am kind of sad to eventually see this trailer go. But the movie I watched with my beloved, with
I was
Brad,
there.
he was there, was Brittany Runs a Marathon.
Yeah.
I felt like this movie really delivered on what the trailer was. I thought that Jillian Bell as Brittany was so natural and so funny and so charming. I just really enjoyed her performance so much.
She is great in it. I've been a fan of hers since think the first thing I saw her in was 22 Jump Street.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
this is her best thing by
Yeah, that's what I've
light
been hearing.
years.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen her in a thing.
Did you? I mean, she has a small role in Inherent Vice, and
Oh, I
she's
did see
in
her
that
in a
Scarlett Johansson movie, Rough Night. Did you? No, of course.
I did
of
not
course Lisa did
watch
not.
Rough
She's
Night.
in my new favorite Christmas movie, The Night Before.
No, did not see
I
that
haven't.
either.
I still haven't seen that. Still haven't seen that.
That's my new favorite Christmas.
I'm
movie.
excited
in
because
that.
she's going to be in Bill and Ted 3.
Oh, she is.
Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
It's good casting.
That's
She's going to
cool.
go well with that environment.
Nice.
Brittany, the character, is this girl who is a party girl, and she's fallen in with kind of an Instagram influencer kind of crowd. And she was just in a place where she was not loving herself. And she used herself as the butt of the joke. She was the person to bring a little levity to the situation. She was the person who was going to give you room to do all of the alcohol abuse you want. She was the kind of person to give everybody around her the permission to be their worst selves because she was going to
Top them.
Yeah. Exactly. And watching the trailer, I was a little concerned that it was going to be perhaps a little fat shamey.
Okay.
In that it is a movie about someone following the road to weight loss. But I think they did a good job of really, the weight loss was just a side effect of her loving herself and treating her body and her soul the way it deserved to be treated. So she makes this goal of running the New York Marathon. And she kind of does it out of peer pressure. Like, she was like, well, I'm going to go to one of these, like, runner meetings that my crazy neighbor suggested I go to because I need some kind of structure and I can't afford to go to a gym. And then just forcing herself to do this one thing she didn't want to do, she found herself on a path of not just doing that thing that she thought she wouldn't want to do, but really enjoying it and really seeing that goal as a thing that is attainable. Now, her becoming obsessed with weight loss and how the weight loss changes how people perceive her is a huge part of the film. But it's in a way that makes her go, like, at first she's like, well...
She's chasing a number.
She's chasing a number because her doctor does say you need to lose 55 pounds, and that's in the trailer. He also based this on the idea of BMI, or body mass index, which is in and of itself a flawed algorithm, a flawed algebra thing. Why can't I think?
System.
Equation. It's a flawed equation because it is just taking your height and your weight, and it doesn't take into account your muscle mass, any kind of genetic things. So the BMI is something that's falling out of favor anyway. But she was set this goalpost, and she did get on the scale a lot. And she did notice that when she was thinner, people were treating her a little bit better. And she has kind of a crisis of faith about that, of going like, do I really deserve to be treated more equally now that I am smaller?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that it's addressed in a really sensitive way. I think that the cast is absolutely wonderful. There's a lot of pretty typical coming of age markers in this story that I fall for. I still think are charming. She has a coworker named Jern, who is played by Utkarsh Ambudkar. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that.
Close enough.
But they have a really cute chemistry. He's also really funny, and they play off of each other really well. One of her running friends, Seth, is a gay man who has a family, and he wanted to take up running so that he would appear to be a responsible person.
Played by Micah Stock, and he's great in it.
He is so wonderful and so funny.
And I loved her friend who played Catherine, Michaela Watkins.
Michaela Watkins. Yes. I know her from things. I wish I could. Can you look up
Yeah,
she has
I've got
been
her
in?
right here. She's been in a bunch of stuff. I mean, she's in that Lake Bell film that I liked a lot called In a World. She's in Wanderlust. She's in Sword of Trust. She does a voice in Big Mouth. She's all over the place. Tons of voice work.
She plays a character whose life on the face of it looks aspirational. She is a person who has already been a runner her whole adulthood, but she has things about her life that are from the outside are not visible, but make her life hard. One of my favorite additions to the cast was Lil Ray Howery.
So good.
From Get Out. I think he is so funny.
He's funny, but he also has a moment, and I won't spoil it, but he has a crying moment. And when you see him crying in the movie,
It is so sweet.
You're crying.
It is literally the sweetest thing. So the character of Brittany, she's a person who's dealing with losing her parents while she was still on the when she was like a teenager.
Both her parents?
Both of her parents. So her mother...
I can't remember.
Her mother went first. I don't know if her mother just left or died. Is that insensitive?
Doesn't
I can't
matter.
remember. But her father passed away while she was still kind of a young adult. And so she ended up being taken in by her older sister. And Lil Ray Howery plays her brother-in-law. But because they're just enough older and they were in this kind of parental role for Brittany when she's kind of in this kind of delayed adolescent phase in her life, he ends up being like a father figure to her. And he is so positive and so encouraging.
It's a family dynamic that I don't think I've quite seen on screen before. And I really appreciated that.
It was really beautiful. And the fact that he could come at her from the angle of a parent and from the angle of a peer, and for her to really put some of her behavior into perspective. Just to say, I really enjoyed the film a lot. It's one of those where it's just like, I don't feel like I necessarily have to run out and run a marathon. She did make running look super hard and unpleasant. But just that idea of going like, I'm going to pick that goal that seems impossible, and I'm just going to move towards it. And the goalpost is allowed to move, and the goal itself is allowed to change. But the most important thing is that I'm still moving and that I am going towards a place where I am more positive and I'm a better person to myself, for myself.
It's about the journey.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was really beautiful. My only concern comes from a place of I am a recovered anorexic. I am very aware of some of the triggers that come along with being a person who has survived eating disorders. And there are all kinds of eating disorders, not just ones that make you thin. There are eating disorders that make you a person of size, or that just, women are faced with thinking about their size such a ridiculous percentage of the time. I think that if I was able to clear some of my concern with my appearance, I would clear so much just RAM from my brain. There's always the how thin am I program running. And I've also started trying to pay more attention to the more, everybody's beautiful acceptance, intuitive eating, rather than being part of diet culture idea. And one of the things with that is that numbers for people with Eating disorders are people who are dealing with weight problems are very triggering. So there are a couple of times where specific numbers in terms, like there are scenes where she gets on a scale and you get to see how much she weighs. And then I can only speak for myself. You start doing that mental math. Like, well, she is this weight and she looks like this. So when I was at that weight, did I look like that? Or if I lost this many pounds, how would I look then? So numbers for people with eating disorders is extremely triggering. And I think there would have been ways to do those scenes where you don't show the numbers, where you can just show her getting on the scale and having a reaction to, because I do think that this would be something good for somebody with any kind of cross to bear, any kind of goals that they wish to achieve. I think that this is a good, encouraging movie to watch, but I do think, like, I did have some behaviors and some frustrations that came up after the film that were definitely eating disorder related and number related. So I'm just going to lay that out there for anybody else who has had any kind of issues relating to the number on the scale. The number on the scale is shown. It's discussed openly. So if that's something that is triggering to you and might be too upsetting for you, I think that there are other movies that you could watch. But I think that would be something that any kind of other, like if somebody else wants to tell a story about overcoming the number of the scale and learning to love yourself just the way you are at your most, as long as you're trying to be healthy, trying to treat yourself right, trying to stay happy. I think there's a way to tell that story without showing numbers.
Yeah, I think the fact that the number's used as kind of this countdown clock in the film shows that the person making the movie, editing the movie, shooting inserts for the movie, isn't aware of how that could be perceived by another person.
One thing that I think I said in anticipation of the movie on this podcast, I'm not entirely sure. I think I said that this film was based on a book. It is not based on a book. The film is written and directed by Paul Downs Calazio. This story is based on his roommate. His roommate was the real Brittany, and she has not written a book. They did show her at the end of the film going like, this is the real Brittany, and this is her at the end of her marathon.
She looked pretty fit.
She did. She looked very fit. But, I forgot my point with that. But it is not based on a book. It is just the movie.
It's a fictional event.
Yeah, it's a fictionalization of a real person's story. But I would be interested to see what the actual Brittany would feel about the numbers. Is that the kind of things that she thinks about? Because there is a scene where the idea of the numbers is overcome. I don't want to give too much away. But, it's shown in the film that the number on the scale is not the be-all and end-all of you as a person. The number on the scale is not some kind of grade where you get an A if you're this number and you get a B if you're this number. It's really about finding your health and finding what keeps you happy and finding what keeps you alive. But like I said, those numbers, it's tough. It's a tough thing to deal with.
All right.
Yeah.
That's it for your weekend, Dork?
Yes.
Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Brad, how
Yes.
was your weekend, Dork?
Great weekend, Dork. As Brian said, the two of us, Turtle Dork and Mouth Dork, did a road trip out to the Alamo Winchester together for Genre Blast Film Festival.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And, Genre Blast is... We've talked about it before. We talked about it on our Facebook Live video that we did from the bar as Brian drank the world's largest White Russian.
I wasn't prepared for that, but it was damn good.
It was like a pint. I didn't know
That
they put it in
sounds like a
pint.
nap in a glass.
She's like, "Do you want it to be a double?" He goes, "Because I'm drinking a Bloody Mary." And she goes, "Yeah, I'll have a double." And it was a pint. It was like a pint
double.
plus.
Like she put two doubles in a glass.
It was impressive. And he drank that thing pretty quickly.
Good.
But what was, and we watched a couple movies. We saw the film Straight Edge Kegger, directed by Jason Zink and starring Corey Kays as Brad. Another Brad.
Yeah.
Was he a
movies.
good Brad or a-hole Brad?
I don't know if I would necessarily call him an a-hole Brad, but I don't think I'd call him a good Brad
Yeah.
either for representing Brads in film.
Yeah.
He's better than that Brad in Frailty, for people who remember Frailty's Brad.
Jesus.
It's about a guy who's part of the straight edge, music scene. It's set in the 90s, although they don't really say that. They don't really go out of their way to make it look like the 90s, but it's emotionally set in the 90s.
Yes, yeah.
And if you talk to the director, Jason Zink, he would say that. And it's about him coming to terms with maybe the straight edge scene is not his scene. Maybe he does want to drink a little alcohol, smoke a little weed. Yeah. And you're watching the film, and the whole time you're watching the film, you're like, well, this is a little drama about a guy finding himself. It's like the punk rock straight edge version of Brittany Runs a Marathon, right? But then, like, his buddies who are in his straight edge gang, they're upset when he strays, and it becomes a slasher film halfway through, or maybe 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
His straight edge gang turns on him and attacks him while he's at a party, and the straight edgers just start slaughtering everyone.
Everybody in the house, yeah.
I found the message of the movie to be pretty confusing because a lot of the victims are like these neo-Nazi types, and you're just like, well,
who's the protagonist?
Yeah, who's the protagonist? What? Should we feel bad for the Nazis who are being killed? What's happening? So that was strange.
Weird.
It was compelling. It was certainly watchable, but I was scratching my head a lot while watching it. More interesting of a flick was Arctic, which comes from director Tom Bochley Skaronsky. And it's produced by this guy named Jerry G. Angelo, who also stars in the film as the title character of Arctic. Fascinating, weird movie. Brian, you can feel free to jump in at any point. But while you're watching the film, I had a hard time pinpointing where in the world this took place. Not just geography, but like time period.
Yeah, because we don't know if it's really something that's kind of post-apocalyptic. Now, it's not like post-apocalyptic like something like Mad Max or something like Dread, but more so, something that still feels grounded in the real world, but where have all the people gone? And it seems like they're isolated and kind of like
there's a child that you're following, and he is on a farm that's being run by Arctic and his wife. Mm-hmm. And they're all prisoners.
Yeah, there's like a pack of children. It's like 9 or 10 children, something like that. 9 or 10
kids, and they're all harvesting the crops, whatnot. Yeah. While their foster dad is cutting the heads off of people and torturing people, and writing a comic book about the process. Arctic is obsessed with comic book storytelling, and he wants to be a superhero of his own universe.
Yeah, he feels like he's trying to be the hero of his own universe, but he feels more like a villain.
Yeah, he's definitely
he's definitely a villain, but it's the idea of like how the villain sees themselves as the hero of their own story.
Right, and there's the actor Chase Williams. He plays Holton, and he's going through some sort of AA kind of counseling going on in another community.
He's a straight edger too.
And he's a straight edger too, which is weird. We saw a straight edge double feature.
Yeah.
And he runs across the boy, and he wants to know more about the boy. And the language he uses makes you think like, well, his reality is also different from the reality that Brian and Brad are living. Mm-hmm. Who are your owners? He asks questions like, who are your owners? Obviously, your parents are dead. And I was like, well, owners, like in this world, are lots of kids roaming free? Like, what's happening? I don't know. And he tries to investigate what's going on with this kid's life and brings him face to face with Arctic. Fascinating movie. Looked really nice. Jerry G. Angelo as Arctic. He had like a Bane-like voice, and Brian does a great Bane voice, by the way.
Do it.
Putting on the spot.
On the spot.
I was born in the darkness. I don't know.
Well, Brian during the movie leans over to me and he goes like, I was born in the darkness. My version's even worse than Brian's. And so, he has a Tom Hardy Bane-like voice.
It is.
But really intimidating presence, and he looks like a monster on screen. Mm-hmm. Great thing about Genre Blast is a lot of these films are coming to the festival and they're bringing their crew and their talent with them. And Jerry G. Angelo, the actor who plays Arctic, is also the producer on the movie, and he was there.
Oh, shit.
And when Brian and I were just hanging out at the bar, strategizing what we were going to do for the day, he just came right over to us.
Yeah.
And just like, you're going to go see Arctic. It's starting in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm the star. I was like, well, we do what the star says.
Yeah.
So we went and watched the film, and I'm watching the movie, and I go like, was that little guy in the bar Arctic?
Yeah, because he came past us, and he walked past us like he knew us. He was like, "Hey guys," and he was giving us like the handshake that he gives us.
Well, right. He shook our hands with his left hand. And the character of Arctic has an injured, dead right hand, and also shakes everybody's hands with the left hand. And as I'm watching the movie, I was like, does this guy have an actual physical defect, or is he in method?
Yeah.
Then after the movie, I see the guy just shaking everybody's hand with the right hand. And I go, he was method!
Yeah.
And the great thing about our relationship with the Alamo Drafthouse in Winchester and with Nathan of Genre Blast is, hey, we want to talk to that guy. Let's bring him on the podcast. And Jerry G. Angelo, being the cool dude that he was and is, agreed to do an interview with Brian and I. And this Wednesday's episode of the ItMod Chatcast will have Brian and I talking to Jerry G. Angelo about Arctic.
My first appearance on Chatcast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Overdue.
Overdue appearance. Yeah.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
And that was a lot of fun. And he was an incredibly enthusiastic individual. Was really excited to talk to us about Arctic.
And he's got a pretty nice career going for himself. He's on a new ABC show, CBS show called All Rise that stars Simone Missick. And when he mentioned it, I remember it because I think I saw like a preview for it, probably in the theater right before, because when he mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that show. That's coming out this fall. I think he said he's in episode 4 of that. And he's done some other stuff too.
He's been in a ton of things. I mean, he's been in like Better Call Saul and just lots and lots of stuff.
Yeah, he mentioned that as well.
Arctic I think just came out on Blu-ray and DVD. Comes out on the 10th maybe.
Yeah, so I guess when
Tuesday.
we drop this, probably tomorrow or this week.
Yeah, it'll be out this week. And then be sure to listen to our ItMod Chatcast and listen to the interview because it was a lot of fun.
It was.
And that's the great thing about Genre Blast is you don't have to be an ItMod dork to talk to the filmmakers at Genre Blast. They all want to just come over, drag you into their movie. They're all hype men for their movies.
Oh, yeah.
And the energy and enthusiasm at Genre Blast is sky high.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to see. That was my first Genre Blast.
Yeah.
And so it's a smaller type of festival than something like Lost Weekend or even what's the one that
Well, you compare it to Fantastic Fest, Chattanooga, festivals that we've been to.
Yeah.
It is smaller than those, and most of the films don't have distribution yet.
Yeah.
Arctic being a rare exception. And because of that, it's people who are just getting their films out into the festival market and are like hungry for interaction with the fan base or to create a fan base.
Yeah, and it's a great outlet that that Chad and Nathan have built to get these filmmakers some eyes on their film. So I think it's awesome.
And to promote Brian some more and Be Young Video, he went to Genre Blast under the mission of creating some B-roll footage, or I don't know if it's all B-roll, but like to cut a trailer for a Genre Blast.
Yeah, just like a little promo for them that they can possibly use in the future, just to kind of get the word out a little bit more. So
you can go now to your website and your Facebook page. You can also go to the Alamo Winchester Facebook page. You can also go to ItMod's Facebook page or Genre Blast Facebook page and watch the footage that Brian cut together, and it's great.
Yeah,
it's like an hour and a half trailer for Genre Blast. It gets you hyped.
Yeah,
Hour and a half.
Minute and a half.
Yeah, but the volume of information
Like an hour and a
feels
half.
like an hour and a half.
It feels
No,
like
it's got a clip to it. It's great.
Yeah. But those are, like I said, I don't think I've met Nathan and Chad. Great guys. And thanks, Brad, for helping with the interviews. They're great with the interviews, and just something just to kind of do for them. So
we did not watch a lot of movies. Those were the only 2 that we watched while we were there. But Brian and I had a whole day at the Alamo Winchester, and it was like just so relaxing.
It was a lot of fun, man.
And great to talk with Brian about
I feel
all
like
manner
I
of things.
missed out on some heart-to-heart combos.
You did.
Yeah.
You
We
both
got
did.
to the bottom of some Brian stuff that I've been dying to get to the bottom of.
It was nice, man. It was nice to spend the day with Brad.
It was great.
Brad is the best.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Thank you.
And
But
so is Brian.
Brian's great too. Brian's great too. Anyway, I love that. Real quick, because it's Chapter 2 week, I also dove into Stephen King films this week as well. I forced Lisa to watch 3 movies. Sleepwalkers, which she loved.
Liked it a lot.
Loved it.
Liked
She
it a
loved it.
lot.
Don't listen to her. She loved it. She watched Stand By Me with me.
First time we skipped the scene that everybody knows I wouldn't like,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it.
And it does not affect the movie in any way, in my opinion. And then we watched Silver Bullet.
Loved
Yeah.
it. Silver Bullet was so stupid fun. I enjoyed it so much.
I had not
great.
watched Silver Bullet in a long time, probably since high school. The film came out in 1985.
Damn.
It's directed by Daniel Attias, who's directed every episode, or he's directed at least one episode of every television show you've ever enjoyed.
And not just like a pee-pee poo-poo episode, like a climactic episode.
Yeah, like you know,
your favorite episode of every single
He
series
directed
you've
the
ever
E.T.?
watched.
no, that's a little early. But he directed The Wire. He directed Lost. He directed Buffy. I mean, he's directed everything.
Okay.
And this was his first movie, and it's a blast. If you're going to compare it to, say, American Werewolf in London or The Howling, the werewolf transformations are maybe not that great or not as good as those 2 other masterpieces.
But a more entertaining movie than The Howling.
I would
I am
not
laying my
argue.
gauntlet.
I would
I was
agree.
holding my
I would
gauntlet,
agree.
then I laid it down.
I agree with you. I think Silver Bullet is more fun than The Howling. Is it a better movie? I got to think about that. But it's a total blast of a film. It's one of those weird 80s movies that's a kid's film starring Corey Haim, but it's also rated R. And Gary Busey's his drunk uncle.
And he's great.
He's amazing in it. You want him to be your drunk uncle.
Yep.
And the violence is top notch. Heads are getting bashed with bats. They're exploding. Darren
ribbon
would love
skin,
it.
Yes.
ribbon skin.
Lots of ribbon skin. If you have not seen Silver Bullet in a long time, and if you have dismissed it as like, you know, low tier Stephen King cinema, guys, you got to go back and revisit it. Honestly, in this modern era of horror filmmaking, like when you compare it to something like It Chapter 2, where most of the scares are concocted in cartoonish CGI, makes me really appreciate the practical violence of Silver Bullet. And I don't
Yes.
always want to be that guy who's like, practical's better than CGI. But you feel the violence in Silver Bullet in a way that you do not in It Chapter 2.
Yeah.
So Silver Bullet, 1985. It's streaming. Go
I
watch it.
think that it would be a great remake.
Wait, is it streaming?
I mean, not for free. You got to rent it.
Oh, okay.
You got to rent it. But $3.99 on Amazon, guys. HD.
We went to rent Stand By Me, and I put the emphasis on a weird syllable. Stand By Me, Stand By Me. And they offered us the option of watching it for free with commercials. I was like, that's gross.
Yeah, they do that on Vudu.
Yeah, I'd
On-
pay $10 not to watch commercials. Just FYI.
And we did pay to not watch commercials. But the fact that the
$3.99.
option is there, roll yourself in front of a train. You
Damn.
should be ashamed
Do not roll
of
yourself in front of a train.
Ashamed
Be
of
ashamed, yes,
yourself.
but don't put yourself on the train track.
No,
She didn't mean that.
But Silver Bullet, worth $3.99 rental. I think I need that Blu-ray, is what I think.
Is it on
Great.
Blu-ray? Is it one of those?
I believe Shout Factory has a
think it
copy.
is.
Yeah.
Shout Factory, the best.
Yep. They also have a Blu-ray of Sleepwalkers, Lisa, that I'm also considering.
I'm good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, but I thought it was crazy that like practically nothing happened for 3/4 of the movie.
I mean, you know, there's a cat lady. There's her son. They're doing it a lot. Lots happens. Lisa.
Oh, all
I
right.
never felt anything. This sounds like a compliment, but it's not. I've never had anything so short feel so long.
Guys.
Wait, what? Oh,
Sleepwalkers is great. Don't listen to
okay.
Lisa. I think Silver Bullet is superior, but Sleepwalkers is great. That's my weekend dork.
okay. All right. For my weekend dork, I saw quite a bit of films since the last time we recorded. I've seen 8 films total, maybe
Jesus.
more. I forgot to probably maybe log one somewhere.
new films.
Excluding one. I saw. Well, okay. So the first movie I saw after we recorded last time was 47 Meters Down, Uncaged. It's what you expect, but I gotta say, like the last 5 or 10 minutes of that movie are fucking nuts. Like, and I haven't even seen like the first. Apparently, there are 2 more. Like
What?
this is like this is the third one. This is like the third.
Mandy
movie.
Moore is in the
first one, right? So this may be the second. This is the second one. Okay, so
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one. But anyway, the last 10 minutes of that movie are nuts. So much so that I gave it. How much did I give it? I think I gave it.
3.5,
no,
I think.
2.5. Stop, Brian. Stop. it earned half a star. Like the last 10 minutes earned half a star. I watched the documentary Cold Case of Hammer
Yes,
Strong.
what'd you think?
I have feelings about that documentary. If you
should.
haven't seen it, I'm not gonna spoil what it's about.
What's it on? Is it HBO?
No, theatrical.
I
theatrical, okay.
I just rented it on. It's worth.
Oh, it's on iTunes?
That's where I watched
Oh,
it.
cool.
It's worth renting. Like it's only like $3.99, like
Yeah.
what they said. But
It's a real mind blower.
you should watch it, Brian. It's engaging. It's intriguing. It starts off one thing. It takes a hard fucking left.
It'll
And
boil your blood.
It pissed me off. That's why I don't even want to go into it right now in the podcast. But
worth seeing.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and worth discussing. I saw Midsummer's re-release, kind of like Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Yeah, I saw that
Midsummer
too.
got a re-release, an extended release, a director's cut, with about 30 minutes of extra footage and
Quite a
inserted
bit.
into the film. Doesn't change my thoughts on how I feel about the film. I do appreciate everything that was added because it's not really more gore or scares. It just expands the characters'
I think
interaction.
there is a crucial scene that is added into the film that I don't want to spoil, but it's a conversation between Christian and Danny that really
Pre-trip or after the
after the trip. Like, yeah,
I think I know which one you're
yeah.
talking about.
That scene really worked for me, but the scene that they also added right before it, which was like another weird ritual scene,
With the lake thing.
the lake thing,
Yeah.
that did not work for me.
Yeah.
This is so
And,
mysterious.
and these are new scenes in the
Yeah,
in the,
I mean,
in the
there-
director's
as
cut.
Brian says, or as Darren says, there's 30 extra
Yeah.
minutes in the film. It's significant. It's not 3 minutes of an action sequence. However, it didn't change my mind on the film. I think I appreciate the movie a little bit more just on a second watch. I still would prefer to watch the theatrical cut, I think.
Well, I feel like the stuff that was added made me go, okay, I see why this happens in the original version, and I buy into that now. Or this character definitely feels how it was,
I don't know.
how I was supposed to, how I got that the theatrical cut, I was supposed to feel a certain way maybe about Christian, or he was being painted in a certain light. And this move, the extended version went a long way. To the additional footage cemented, okay, I definitely feel that way about him now. So there were things in all the stuff that was inserted, I appreciated. It didn't feel like sometimes, because if you look at deleted scenes on like supplemental features, sometimes you can go, okay, I see why that wasn't in the movie, or I wouldn't have put that in there anyway. But all of this stuff, it didn't really feel superfluous so
But-
much. So is
If you were going to watch the film again, would you watch the director's cut or the theatrical cut?
I don't know. I would watch the director's cut.
I think I'm the opposite. I think I'd
Yeah?
watch the theatrical.
I still, but my feelings are cemented in that I do not think, I don't feel like, I don't like it better than I like Hereditary.
No,
I don't
no
feel
way.
like it's a better film than Hereditary. But I will say, there is an assuredness in both cuts of Midsummer. There's an assuredness in Ari Aster's hand when he's, crafting his stories, his characters, his horror, how he presents it, that for me, I think is uniquely his own, and I really appreciate it. And no matter what he does from this point on, I'm definitely looking forward to his work. He's a tremendous director.
Is there one thing about these films that make you say Hereditary? Because you both say Hereditary is better than Midsummer. Like, why?
You want to
Darren,
go first?
You want me to go first?
You can go first.
I mean, for me, the narrative of Midsummer is not as emotionally engaging for me, and that's a personal thing.
Okay.
Two, the path that it goes, I like from the jump. I knew where the movie was going, and so
You know where Midsummer was
where
going.
Midsummer is going, and it went there. And it's all well made and well crafted and well performed. And you're like, oh, okay, it is what I thought it is. Hereditary was neither of those things. I was incredibly emotionally engaged with multiple characters in Hereditary. I was visually amazed. I'm visually amazed in Midsummer, but in a different kind of way. And then I had no idea where that film was going from the get-go.
I would say what Brad said applies. The characters in Midsummer, you're basically watching a really fucked up and stressful, almost 3-hour breakup movie. It's the movie starts and this relationship is, you're staring into the fissure. Like you know it's doomed. It's falling apart. So it's in like Hereditary, how that movie starts out in a bad place only to get worse. That's the way Midsummer is. But the characters, that particular relationship, I didn't enjoy being
with those people.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy peering into the window of that household, watch what was going on. And I'm not saying that there's enjoyment to be, watching what's going on with Hereditary, but because I didn't enjoy peering into the lives of Christian and Danny, I couldn't really connect to that. Whereas in Hereditary, I had nothing but sympathy from the get-go. And I think that's where a lot of my personal misery comes from in horror when watching Hereditary, is because like you feel so bad because the movie starts out with Toni Collette and that family mourning the death of, the grandmother.
Right. Whereas the first conversation between Danny and Christian in Midsummer, you're like, get away from this dude.
Right. And so that's it really comes down to that particular personal preference ultimately. And I feel like Hereditary, it feels more focused and concise. But again, to me, I could never have imagined in a million years at the opening scene of Hereditary or after the first 5 or 10 minutes what the last 5 or 10 minutes of that movie would be. It comes out of nowhere and it fucking wrecks you. Whereas with Midsummer, just the premise of it, before you even see the movie, the premise of it, you kind of, I think I know where this is going. And then it does play out like that.
It is interesting to think about. If I had never seen a trailer for Midsummer, would I have known the whole path of the movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. Marketing sometimes ruins a film.
So yeah, I saw that. I got it. I got at the Alamo showed, I guess because it's the 20th anniversary of The Matrix or some shit like that, 25th or whatever. No, they showed a 4K restoration. I got to see that in Theater A, the big Dolby Auditorium, which is
we were there.
freaking nuts.
No, that was a different screening.
Oh, never mind. I take that back.
I saw Don't Let Go with David Oyelowo.
Yeah, I saw that.
And you know what? There was some stuff I liked about it. There was some stuff I liked about it. There's some stuff that was kind of predictable. There's a particular character early on in the movie, and you go, that guy's gonna turn out to be a fucking bad guy, or he did it, and it turns out that way. But like I don't know, like the concept, it's kind of a high concept. If you haven't seen the trailer, David Oyelowo and his daughter, not a daughter, his niece have a very strong bond. Brian Tyree Henry is her biological father. Something happens to her parents, and then something happens to her. And after she dies, he gets a phone call from her. He's obviously destroyed, but she's calling him from 2 weeks in the past. And he has to figure out how to keep her alive. Okay, so the thing that happens that kills you hasn't happened yet on your end of the phone.
So he has a chance to.
Yeah, and
Isn't that the plot of Frequency that Dennis Quaid?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of been done before. I mean the one thing I did appreciate is the fact that they don't really go too deep into the
whys or how.
Yeah, the whys or the hows, because that's not the point of the film. It's just really just focusing on the characters and David Oyelowo and him trying to save his niece and
her, what's her name?
Storm Reed.
She's great.
Yeah.
Oh, for Wrinkles in Time.
She is great in that movie.
Wrinkles of the Time.
She is really good in that film.
Yeah, she's good. I just had problems with some of the characterizations, and I think the ending just gets a little unfocused, and it just goes like I got confused with a lot of things because something happens and then it happens again, but I don't know. It just
we could talk about it offline. I think I can explain that. But I get what you're saying. And
yeah,
I can see how that might happen.
Yeah, it just kind of took me out. But I mean, but at the end of the day, I think the performers, the actors, brought their A games. But I just think the director, it was just a little too unfocused, especially towards that third act for me. I was just
So I saw that, but I enjoyed it, and then I saw Good Boys, which
and
I think I did like a double feature that day, or that was like, man, that movie was freaking hilarious. That's where I took my quote from. And it was everything that Brian said. Brian wasn't wrong. Like, this very touching story about those three boys and them, their own individual identities, and then coming to terms with the potentiality of, what does our friendship mean? Are we just friends because we just happen to live next door from each other? And will our friendship extend beyond that? Are we allowed to grow into our own persons and go our separate paths and still remain friends? Because you don't think about that stuff when you're that age and you have a best friend. You're going to be best friends for life. You're not going off to college without me. You're not going to have a career that may take you in another state. You're just going to be best friends with me right here forever. You don't think that, that person, Brian may grow up and go off to somewhere. I may go off to fight in the war or whatever, and then, but I can come back and we'll still keep in touch. You don't think about shit like that. So them coming to terms with that, but also it just being like, that crude type of comedy in the vein of Superbad. I found that shit really funny, man.
It's hilarious. It is hilarious.
I had a headache and I was laughing my ass because I was going in there with like really low to no expectations, right?
Yeah.
And so I wasn't amped and ready to laugh at every single thing that happened. But Lucas, is that his name? Lucas?
The black kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
freaking hilarious.
He's hilarious.
All of them are great together chemistry-wise.
L. Williams.
But
that's
he
what
freaking like steals the show almost.
He steals the movie and his story. Like his personal story with his parents and what's happening with that, and like going into how kids deal with that. I'm not gonna give spoilers away. But and then like
Lil Rel.
But like some of the bits with him is just, oh my god, dude, the convenience store with the cop.
Yeah. He's great. He's great. So I enjoyed that. I also saw today. I just saw Ne Zha. It's spelled Ne-Zha. It's a Chinese Hong Kong production.
It's breaking records in China.
I see why now. I heard that prior to seeing the film. I just caught the trailer like 2 or 3 days ago, and I was like really iffy on it. But it's if Hong Kong had done like a DreamWorks CGI production type film. And I gotta say, like, I understand why it's breaking records in China and Hong Kong. More so than a DreamWorks film or even a Pixar film. Like, it really is, it really feels like it is aimed for the younger demographics. It's based on actual Chinese mythology or folklore, and it's just an animated version of that. So there is a sense of Chinese culture and history inherent in that, and it brings a gravitas to like the storytelling. But because it's aimed at a younger audience, there are characters in there who like the tone of it at times it has a really there is some levity to it, some really light sense of humor that could be. I can see how, and I actually read a review on Letterboxd where someone was thrown off by the tonal shift in their eyes with like a lot of the lightheartedness, but at the end of the day, in going into the movie aware of that particular critique, what I came away from it was, it was just unabashedly aimed at children. It wasn't like there wasn't really a lot of subtext for, like when in a Pixar film, there's subtext for like adults that we can get that will move us and we'll respond to, whereas the little ones sitting next to us, it would just go over their head, but they're reacting to things on their own particular emotional level and what they can relate to. It's not so much stuff like that in this film. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, that legend is there, the mythology is there, the cultural aspect of it, cultural history is there. But what the protagonist, so really Ne Zha, he is in Chinese mythology, and I might be messing all of this up. There are these two quote unquote pills, a demon pill and like a heavenly pill. So a good pill and a bad pill. And it has also something to do with like the mythological like Chinese dragon lore. And one pill is supposed to be given to like the like the Dragon King and ruler, and the other pill was supposed to be given or placed into like a woman, a human woman, so that a good god can be birthed from it. So the whole thing was balance and everything, but because of a deity who is lusting for power, he steals both of them and swipes it out and takes the bad pill and puts it in the human mother, and he takes the good one on its own for his own to raise it as his own to eventually have it grow up and change like this particular prophecy and rule or whatever, blah blah blah. So anyway, the story is the bad pill is Ne Zha, and he is put into this Chinese ruler's his wife's womb. She births him, and everyone's afraid of him because they know everyone in that particular time is afraid of. They know of the legend and the myth, and so they know that Ne Zha is supposed to be of this demon. He's going to grow up to be this demon king or whatever. So they're afraid of him. So they shun him, and it's about, because of the prophecy, he's fated to grow up to be. It's basically like Hellboy. He's going to grow up one day and fuck shit up. Right, but there's a curse placed upon him when the pill was created, that on his 3rd birthday, I can't remember his name. He's like the high one, like the main order of the gods or whatever. He's gonna create a lightning bolt that's gonna strike him, that'll kill him. So basically, once he's born, he only has 3 years to live, and his parents are aware of this. So his parents are dealing with, well, we got to give him the best life possible. I know that these people want to kill him, but he's my son, even though he's prophesied to be this demon thing. I'm just going to raise him the best way that I can, and we'll keep him shielded within these walls so that he can't go out and hurt anybody. But while he's within these walls, we can give him love, and maybe we can, change fate or somehow like that, have hope for that. There's that going on. And then with Ne Zha, he's just dealing with, people are afraid of me. People shun me. I can't go out of these walls and be myself. My mom's off fighting. And so, I'm alone. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just be, what I want to be or who I am? And so he grows up and eventually, he causes trouble. And people continue to, that's why he has to be put away, or you have to put him away, or you have to kill him and get rid of him. But he's just being himself. And he's not even really being he's being mischievous, but there are kids in that village who aren't demons or whatever, who do the same shit that he does. But because he has that stigma, or he's part of that prophecy, they take that and then they blow it up to, see, we told you he's going to kill us all. And so he's really alone. So one day he happens upon the other pill, and he makes a connection. I don't want to get into spoilers, but anyway, that point, the movie up until that point was like, it was good. I was really enjoying it. The visuals are freaking amazing. Like, they are amazing. If I told you, if I put that movie on and say, all right, hey guys, DreamWorks just did this movie that's based in Chinese mythology, let's check it out, and we watched it, and you didn't watch the credits and you just watch it, at the end of it, you go, man, DreamWorks really stepped their game up. Like, the shit is really that good. Visual wise, it had a limited run on the 29th of August in IMAX 3D. I only caught it in 2D today, but I wish I had seen it in, because it was in laser projected IMAX 3D. That movie would have looked friggin' amazing. Like, it is really good visual wise. And then the characters, with what happens with that story, and once the 3rd act begins, I probably want to say the middle of the 2nd act all the way to the end, like, I became super engaged. I found it surprisingly emotional, especially for the main character of Ne Zha, because he's kind of like hard to relate to outside of the fact that you just sympathize with him. You have empathy for him in regards to, him just not being able to connect with anyone. He can't have friends. He can't play with the local kids because the parents say, hey, stay away from him. He's a demon kid. He can't connect with his parents because his father's off in another realm, plane of existence, trying to get the curse lifted from him. His mother's off fighting, because the father's away. The mother's taking the role of the man and fighting. So he's kind of left within this palace guarded by this force field to keep him from, doing any damage, because he has tremendous power. And so you don't really connect to him on a super emotional human level. even with that, except you just feel bad for this kid who it's not his fault. He didn't ask to be born this way. He didn't ask to be born for these powers. He didn't even know in 3 years he's going to fucking die. He's going to get struck by a bolt of lightning because his parents didn't tell him the truth about that. So you feel bad in that way. But then, like, when he meets the other pill and he finds a connection, like, I don't know, like I found myself really like emotionally moved with how that exchange happens and the way that it's shot on this beach with the sunset in the background. It's fucking beautiful. And then that dialogue and then what that meant for the character. And from that point on all the way to the end of the film, like I was really, really surprised. So I'm glad I ended up checking that out. But yeah, that's from off of my weekend. Oh, and Dark Crystal. I started watching that. That shit's friggin' nuts too.
I cannot get myself enthused to watch Dark Crystal.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch it, but I just can't have it.
I don't know. I was never a huge fan of that or Labyrinth. Those just weren't the Henson projects that ever had an appeal to me. But I've heard good things, and I just listened to Henson's daughter talking about it on the Little Gold Men podcast. And, she's a super cool, interesting person and kind of got me excited to watch it. But are you enjoying it? What you've seen so far?
Yeah, it's kind of like before we started recording when I was explaining to you how Sia on her rewatch of Fantastic Mrs. Fox. That's basically what I was doing with the Dark Crystal. I was just stupefied by, just thinking about the practicality of the puppeteers that are on the outside of the frame and them operating the marionettes or them being inside the Skeksis uniform or the Skeksis costume or just the production value in the sets. Like, it's mind-numbing. It's insane. Because, we live in an age where if that were a movie, all of that would be blue screen, right? That would be something that was done digitally. Whereas these are these tangible sets that are built practically.
And they've been trying to get that made for a long time under different iterations. There was a 2D animated take on it that was going to happen at one point, and that didn't work.
I'm glad.
Netflix came to them and said, actually, can we do it as puppets? That was Netflix who requested it.
Well, kudos to them because it's astonishing. And it, in this day, like what Brian was saying about his fear about the action scenes in Bad Boys for Life, in this day and age where it's nothing to, I was watching the special features of John Wick 3. I watched that as well. I was watching the special features on that, and they were showing like that set in Morocco. Some of that soundstage stuff was had green screen like filling and blue screen filling. So in this day and age where it's nothing to do that, for them to have something of this epic a scale, because this scale of this series dwarfs the scale of the film. In the film, for its time and what it was pretty epic in scale, right? The world building that is in the initial Dark Crystal. So I don't know, like production value wise, it's a pretty incredible achievement.
She cited Avatar: The Last Airbender as a big influence.
Ooh, I could see that. I could see that. I could see, man, that someone needs to do that property justice.
Well, Netflix is doing a series for The Last Airbender. I think it's a live action series that they're doing.
Are they getting Shyamalan to direct some?
Stop.
They need to.
Stop.
No. I think they're going to learn from their mistakes.
I hope so.
I hope it's white. That's the only thing that really is important to me. Because white is right.
All right. So with that, what is white?
Where's your red hat?
It's a cartoonist kayfabe. It's not a MAGA hat.
Stop. All right. Look, when we come back from the break, we are going to do our review cast for this week, and it is
I'm not racist.
It's Chapter 2.
It's all jokes, man.
So if you haven't seen that movie, do yourself a favor, go check it out, and then come back for the second half for our review cast, because we will be getting into spoilers. So
we will.
Yes, so be warned. We'll be back right after the break.
I'm gonna get some coffee.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This week's review cast is for Stephen King's It, Chapter 2.
How do we all feel about It Chapter 1? I think we need to assess ourselves before we get into this conversation. Were we fans of the first movie?
Are we going to do a round robin?
Yeah, we're going to do a round robin, Lisa. You hush until it's your turn.
Brian, ladies first, how was your feelings towards It Chapter 1?
Well, thank you. I actually really enjoyed It Chapter 1. I think because I like the way that it balances between the scares and the horror, and really kind of fleshing out that Stephen King world of Derry and the coming of age kind of drama of it. I think those kids work really well together, where we really get to know those characters, because that translates well, as we'll get to in It Chapter 2, that you actually care about these characters. And I just think the casting of those kids was just really just pitch perfect, and I really enjoyed that first movie. Not scary to me, but just the chemistry between those young actors, I think, really sold the film.
All right, that's enough. Lisa, your thoughts on It Chapter 1?
Women second. Okay. I did not see It Chapter 1.
No, Lisa, firstly, I want to, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't want you to think of it as you being second. I want you to think of Brian as being the opening act for you, the main act. You know what I'm saying? Like, all your favorite comedians, like the big ones, they have like smaller, like lower tier talent come out to warm the crowd.
The audience for my opinion.
He's your pillow fluffer.
Yeah, I'm the fluffer.
Right?
Hard hitting.
Yeah.
Larger than life opinion, which is I haven't seen It Chapter 1.
Oh shit! Wait, what?
So you went into the second movie without saying
cold. Well,
what, Brad? What?
In anticipation of It Chapter 1, we watched the 1990s mini-series of It.
Yeah.
And that was played up real hard. And I was just like, this is good, not great.
I really like the Tim Curry miniseries.
And so then I missed it in the theater because of, I think, a crippling case of disinterest. Yeah. And then Brad was watching it at home.
We started it together, Lisa.
And I got a few... I don't know. How much do you think
you got
I watched?
About 25 minutes in, and then you made me turn it off.
The first
Did I make you turn it off?
You
I
did.
felt like just like a big no thank you.
No.
Was there a certain point in the film? That
it was after the first spooky section with Stanley where the painting comes to life.
No, you're making it sound like I got scared.
No,
the issue was I was bored.
Yes.
And I said, I know the story.
But from the beginning of watching It Chapter 1, you were actively disinterested and you wanted to watch something else. I can't remember what it was. And you just
I'm sure it was great.
You were so actively disgusted with the movie or bored with the movie. Not disgusted. You were so actively bored with It Chapter 1 that we turned it off to watch something else.
Oh.
So there you go. There we have it.
All right. Brad, your thoughts on It Chapter 1?
I liked it. Mm-hmm. I loved the cast of kids. Mm-hmm. I agree with Brian. It was never particularly scary to me. And I always feel like it should be an extremely scary story, considering it's, the whole point of the creature is to induce fear in the characters around him and in the town of Derry. And I was always frustrated with how not scary it was. I thought the film looked pretty darn beautiful. The first chapter, the cinematographer was Chung Hoon Chung, who did The Handmaiden for Park Chan-wook.
Jesus.
I mean, jingle, jangle, jingle, jangle.
Oh, jingle. I was like, don't make fun of his name.
What?
Wow.
No, the bells and
You're talking about the bells in the Handmaiden.
That was a you problem.
I know, because I'm not racist, like I said before the jump. Yeah. And so, I thought it was very pretty, but also overly produced when it came to the scares. Yeah. Strong emphasis on CGI characters. Andy Muschietti, I think, and I just have a different aesthetic. So that's how I felt about It Chapter 1. But I did like it, and I love the cast. There you go. How about you?
The exact same thoughts. All the exact same thoughts. I enjoyed it. I love the kids. I thought it was beautifully shot, like you. I was not a fan of the CGI and the scares. It just wasn't scary to me.
What I love about the book and what I appreciate about the miniseries, even though I don't think it necessarily handles it well all the time in the miniseries, is how it jumps back and forth between the past and the present.
Yeah.
And how that sort of emphasizes the effect of this childhood trauma on the adult selves. And when they made it chapter 1 and they removed that element from it, I was very curious to see how they were going to handle it in the second film.
Chapter 2. Okay.
So,
All right. Having said that, just fair warning once again, ladies and gentlemen, because we are now going to go round robin to do the good, the bad, the ugly about it chapter 2. We will be divulging spoilers, so you have been warned. Hopefully, if you've seen the film. If not, go check it out. All right. Are you ready?
Richie has been in the closet the whole time.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yep. Spoiler.
His feelings for Eddie.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that, Brian, the good.
The good. I'm gonna go right to what we were talking about prior to recording, and might be my only good.
Gee.
It's the casting. It's the casting of the adult Losers Club in comparison to their adolescent counterparts. I thought they nailed the casting, and even to have big names like James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain and Bill Hader, I thought they embodied those the adolescent characters damn near perfectly. Even Isaiah Mustafa, the Old Spice guy.
I think he was great.
I thought he was great.
I did not realize that was him.
Oh,
I did not know it was the Old Spice guy until I looked at IMDb.
Yeah. I thought he was great as Mike. I mean, they really did such a tremendous job to really carry that over for us to really care and believe about these characters as adults, especially when they get reunite in the Chinese restaurant when they all see each other for the first time again. That I thought was really good. And I thought the opening was really strong to see this closed-minded community and that first scare when we see Pennywise. I don't know. I just thought that was it seemed effective.
Well, it's interesting how the first film, It Chapter 1, opens with a very graphic killing of a child.
Yeah.
Poor Georgie chasing his boat down the stream to have his arm ripped off in the sewer.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then that, in the 80s violent act of the book is the killing of Adrian Mellon, the homosexual guy who's murdered by these hateful homophobic townspeople.
Yeah.
And it has a similar effect to the Georgie killing, right? Where it's extremely intense and graphic and uncomfortable, but maybe even more heightened because of the hate crime aspect of it than the Georgie one.
Yeah.
And I was surprised and thrown off by how uncomfortable that whole sequence made me feel.
Very, very uncomfortable. And it's the difference because it almost feels like we get more characterization with Pennywise because in the first one, he's luring Georgie in for the kill. In this one, we just kind of happen to come upon him as opposed to like the horrific nature of that opening is more so the homophobic people that are,
I want to address that.
Okay.
I also want a pin in that.
Yeah, in my bad section.
Got you. Yeah, but that's really all my good.
All right. Wife Dork.
Yes.
You're the good.
I want to echo Brian's sentiments on the strength of the casting. Everybody loves Bill Hader.
Yep.
He had some very strong lines that I get a deep sense, or maybe I just want to believe in my heart that Bill Hader improvised because I think he's such a hero. I like the idea of a horror story. So I'd watched it, the miniseries, and Brad and I went to
Bangor,
Maine, and we went to some of the sites that are in it, the book. And so it has been on my mind and has been in conversation for a while. And particularly lately.
We fully immersed ourselves in the fictional town of Derry while visiting Bangor. And it was a blast.
And for some reason, I never got the angle of it that it was about the parts of our childhood that we forget. Like, as you become an adult, your brain starts self-editing your memories, and without your consent, starts tossing whole swaths of your experience away. And your memories are what defines you as a person. It's what defines your present. And the idea of a monster hiding in those memories is a really cool idea. Maybe I'm like 30 years late, but Stephen King, that dude is on to something. He's really going to be somebody. So I liked that idea of how they leave Derry and the parts of Derry that defined them as children starting to fall away.
Yeah, and there's this great moment in the film in chapter 2 where Mike says, look, you think you know what you remember, but you don't. And actually, what you're remembering right now, you're missing stuff. And you got to go find the stuff that you're missing. And when that moment happens in the movie, you go like, what was It Chapter 1 not complete? Are there sections of It Chapter 1 that we still really need to see to understand the full story? Yeah. And it turns out, yes, there are sequences, but what those little tiny revelations were actually weren't that revelatory or didn't alter your perception of It Chapter 1. I think there was an opportunity there to really change your idea of what you saw in the first film.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible because Andrew Machete, he said that he's working on like a super duper long cut.
Dude, this movie is so long.
Right. So do you think that there could be some of that?
I don't think that based on the film that I have in front of me.
Yeah.
I think there is a version of that film that could exist, but I don't think Andy Machete has that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
To me, as a person who had not seen It Chapter 1, I appreciated the going back and getting the tokens and filling in the gaps of what those... But I can imagine being a person who didn't see Chapter 1 and going like, why are we seriously going over this again?
No, those scenes are all new.
Oh, okay,
Those
good.
scenes are all new, but they're not like... When you see those scenes, it doesn't recontextualize anything that you saw in It Chapter 1.
Yeah.
And there was a moment when Mike says that where you go like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
We're going to need to reevaluate the first film. And that was like a really exciting moment in this movie.
Yeah. So that was my good.
All right.
Did you guys catch it?
Yes.
I think so.
Brad, the good.
Yeah. Cast is great. The way that they found adult actors who, in some cases, look like the children grown up, like they used a machine of some kind to make that happen. I'm looking at you, James Ranson. I mean, young Eddie and old Eddie look like the same human being.
Yeah.
Bill Hader, amazing. On top of, his skill with humor and his skill at like cutting into the emotion, he has the best Deadlights face. Since we are talking spoilers,
Horrifying.
And when the Deadlights look directly into Richie, and he goes slack-jawed,
Horrifying.
Yeah.
that was the scariest image of the whole film. And let's remake Evil Dead 2 right now and cast Bill Hader as a Deadite. Because he's got Deadite face. Perfect.
Yeah, he was great.
So I loved that. I loved the Chinese sequence, the Chinese restaurant sequence. I felt like that was a really wonderful reunion. You felt like they are a friend, their friendship. I'm not talking about the monsters.
Okay.
I'm talking about the reunion.
Yeah.
Especially when, again, Bill Hader, Richie comes upon Beverly and Ben and goes like, you guys look great, but what the fuck happened to me? Perfect Richie, perfect Bill Hader. I think the design of a lot of the scares are really cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like butts laced in all my comments, but there are sequences like when Bill goes to the sewer drain that consumed his brother, and you see you hear his brother's voice coming out from the drain. He reaches in to go grab his brother, and like this army of hands all come after him. The image of all these little tiny crawling hands wrapping around each other to pull him down was really creepy. And then the great shot of all the many children's eyes staring up at him, where you just see the reflections of their irises, that's like, ooh, really creepy idea.
Yeah.
Again, we'll get into the bad. Great idea. Effective looking, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
What other cool things? I mean, like I love the idea of the film. I like Lisa's point about how memories are being ripped away from us in our natural lives, and the idea that an alien entity could have affected that in some way is really interesting. And I love the idea of an evil presence infecting a town, and how, all this evil that we commit to each other, we could investigate what is the root of our evil actions, and maybe we could cure that in some fashion. I think is an interesting idea. And Skarsgård as Pennywise.
Oh yeah.
Revelation.
He's awesome. He
great.
has the best facial expressions of a clown. I think the design, here's a case where I feel like sometimes the design gets in the way of the character, but the design of Pennywise I don't think is as strong as the Tim Curry version or the Bozo the Clown version that I have in my head from the book, because on its surface in the 90s film and in the book, he does look like a Ronald McDonald commercial clown that then turns terrifying. At no point does this Pennywise look like he could walk into a restaurant and entertain some kids.
I mean, he looks scary from the beginning.
Like clean your clown suit, dude. It's too dirty.
Yeah.
Ronald McDonald's not going to approve of this.
There's also some play with the uncanny valley where they'll take his image and they'll just tweak it a little bit to make it creepy, scary. I thought that was kind of interesting, even if it did say that he could not be Ronald McDonald.
I think like idea-wise, like, ooh, I like the idea of stretching his face to look like the painting woman. Like, that's kind of cool. Yeah. But in the execution of the tweak, it doesn't work for me. Anyway, that's my good.
Oh. All right. It's good for me. Nothing that hasn't already been said. I not only do I appreciate the adult cast of the film, I also still appreciate the young cast of the film, and seeing them side by side goes a long way to what you were talking about, how the material's handled in the book, while you switching back and forth between timelines all in one, in one format. And I feel like had the entire saga been laid out in that way, just maybe a part 1 and a part 2, I don't know, I feel like I may have felt strongly about both of the films as a whole. But seeing them juxtaposed, seeing the older cast juxtaposed against the younger versions of themselves in the same film went a long way to sell everything that the older cast were expressing and feeling as far as, what had happened in the past and where they are in the present.
So chapter 1 had no versions of them as grown-ups?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. So there was supposed to be like a stinger, where a cell phone rings and a hand reaches down to pick it up and they pan up and it's Jessica Chastain's character. It was supposed to have been Mike making the first call, but he ended up not putting that in the film. But there's no adult versions of those characters in the first film. And now and like I said, I enjoyed the first film. I don't know that the first film suffered from that, but I feel like it could have been it could have benefited a lot more from that. But with what we had in this film, I do appreciate the quality of acting. When I speak about the quality of acting, at the very least from the adult cast, it went a long way to solidify and sell the friendship that's established with the young cast, because the young cast, their performance were such that you really bought into them, being this group of friends. And what I liked about the first film is that it's, for the new kid and for Beverly, it's when they first meet. So you first meet them, you first see them connecting, and then the bond forming, and then we span like 27 years later, and now you see how much that bond has grown. And like what Brad said, and like you've seen in the film, we get a glimpse into things that we didn't see in the first film that also lent itself to the strengthening of that bond. And so the performance is, to see those kids react the way that they did to each other, they really felt like friends. And then so the adult cast went a long way to sell that, they were these same kids. They felt like the same people. And so I really enjoyed that. Skarsgård's performance as Pennywise, It's not bad. Like it's neither here nor there for me. I don't think it's really, doesn't really stand out for me. But neither did Tim Curry's Pennywise. I remember seeing it and he's great. He's fine in it, but I don't.
The 90s film is, when people are like, oh, that's dated. Well, of course it's dated. It came out in the 90s. But it does not hold up. It is not still awesome.
Oh.
It maybe never was. But I really loved it back in the day.
Yeah.
Just because it was, one of my favorite books come to life.
But Skarsgård's version of Pennywise is resonant. Like, you can't turn around and not see someone cosplaying as Pennywise or somebody.
It struck a chord. His performance has struck a chord.
Yeah. I like that weird thing he does, like with his bottom lip where it's sagging and it's drooling all the time. I don't know.
You can't not watch that movie and then try that in a mirror.
Good job, Brad. Good job, Lisa.
Thanks.
Your turn, Brian. Go.
No, it's a commitment of the bottom lip that us sexy people cannot abide.
Look at Brian.
Ew, you did a thing with your tongue that made me uncomfortable. Who should I call?
All right.
Hey, there you go. That's
Anyway, I like it. There was this thing that I felt. Is it just me, or like in the beginning of the film, there were some really interesting transitions from one scene to the next. That really creative transitions. Was it me, or did they trail off towards the second half of the film?
Stopped.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're talking about like the blood onto Beverly and stuff like that.
Or panning up to the stars that ended up being like the puzzle pieces and going up through the table.
The end.
Somebody got bored of doing that.
Huh. So I don't know.
I would need to watch it again to pay specific attention to that. But my feeling is that transition creativity disappeared.
Yeah, that was odd.
But I also felt like that. I mean, I didn't like those either.
Oh, okay. Let me see. What else were good? The presentation of the film, I saw it in Tyson's IMAX, not in 3D, but in their laser projector, and the sound system in there, that coupled with the size of the screen and the clarity and the image quality, that sound system went a long way to make
the booze boo.
Yeah, the effective, when the part from the trailer, are you still daddy's little girl, Beverly? Are you? Doom, doom, doom. And then the giant thing comes out, like the bass in there was like palpable. Like that was pretty effective. So yeah. All right. The bad, Brian.
Oh man, how much time do we have?
Oh shit.
Damn, B.
The gauntlet.
I don't want to steal that. Yeah, I know. I don't want to steal everybody's thunder.
Steal it.
Okay, we'll start. Now, when I left this film, first thing that came to my mind was, why in the fuck is this movie 3 hours?
I second that emotion.
I do not understand.
I mean, there's a lot of plot there. There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, okay, I guess. You look at a movie like, I don't want to compare this to Endgame,
but really, is the question, why is it 3 hours long, or is it more like, why is this movie 5 hours long?
Well,
5 plus hours long. 5 hours and 15 minutes, I think.
Yeah, because this movie, in the middle of the middle section, when Mike explains that, okay, all you guys have to go get an artifact so they can perform the ritual of Chud, and now they all break off, and now we're basically just kind of watching vignettes of all these different characters.
And that's how the first chapter goes too, because you have the first encounters with those children with it. So it's like a mirror of that scene, which if you had just watched it chapter 1, like I had, it really feels repetitive and not contributing in any way.
Yeah.
Which furthered my disappointment with the idea that, I thought the idea was we're going to reassess what we saw in the first film.
Yeah. It can recontextualize what we saw
Yeah,
previously, but it doesn't, and it just feels like we're going through the same motions. I found myself being extremely bored by this movie. And also what added to that boredom was the jump scares. This movie is built on jump scares. And half the shit is not even scary because a lot of it is handled or is the visual effects. The visual effects just really just took me out.
The old woman.
Yeah, that whole scene with the oh my God.
Like when the old woman comes out, sound design in Theater A at the Alamo, awesome.
Yeah, the sound design was
boom,
great.
boom, boom. Those first boom, boom, booms. But when she comes out and it's like The Hobbit, like I really like the design of the old woman.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
that was a book cover of like a scary stories to tell in the dark, I'd be like, ooh, that's a creepy drawing.
Yeah.
But it is like the crazy woman in Toontown and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
You know, like it is so goofy.
Very goofy. And even the third act, when you see giant Pennywise when they go down into the sewer on Neibolt Street in the house, and then like all that stuff becomes like repetitive and it's just not scary, and then how they ultimately defeat Pennywise, and it's like, so first all the artifacts and the stuff just seemed like it didn't work. So basically I just watched the last hour for what?
No reason.
For no reason at all.
Yeah, it's a big dud. That ritual chud, big dud.
Yeah, and then it's like you basically destroy him the way that you knew you had to destroy him anyway. It was just like not fear him the way you did in the first movie.
My understanding of how they've redone the ending of this film from the book is, yes, it's a repetition of what you did before. So in the first film, it ends with, we're not afraid of you. We're going to make you afraid of us.
Yeah.
And the creature, Pennywise, learns the fear for the first time. And he falls down a hole. And because he falls down a hole and they don't go after him, he lives.
Yeah.
If they had only just gone down that hole then, and then found his body and ripped his heart out of his imagined body, because what's the deal with the deadlights in this version?
Yeah.
You know, so they pull his heart out, but he's not one of the deadlights, those 3 orbs. So what is the thing that they pulled out? It's not a physical thing in this version, right? Very confusing. What are the rules of this?
Yeah. The characterizations of these characters, like we get like those, the beginning of, we see Beverly and her abusive marriage, and that's never revisited. And then we get Bill, James McAvoy. He's a writer in Hollywood, and he's married.
Peter Bogdanovich. That was one of my goods. I forgot to mention. Peter
Yeah,
Bogdanovich shows up as the director.
Yeah. But like none of that stuff is ever revisited, but it's just basically like just these introduction scenes, just to kind of establish who these characters are, and then but we never get any more depth into.
And both of those characters, the wife of Bill and the husband of Bev,
Yeah.
are major players in the book.
I've heard, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. And then like just the idea, like I love the Chinese restaurant scene, but it just feels like 27 years later, these characters don't seem like they have any type of growth. So it just seems like they're just kind of playing off the characterizations of who these kids were. And to me, like how you kind of always say, it feels very movie, where it's just like, okay, this is Richie, but this is Richie as an adult, but he's still acting and still having the same riffs with Eddie. And Ben still likes Bev, which he could still have a crush on her 27 years later, but it just feels like they're just doing the same thing as kids, and it just doesn't feel like it's any growth.
I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, when I get together with friends that I had in high school, I do kind of revert to the relationships that we had then. So I think that's kind of interesting. But to your point, especially the Eddie and Richie exchange where they're just like, fuck your mother. No, fuck your mother. Like that felt false. I mean, just the performance-wise.
Especially when you consider the emotional place where they're trying to take Richie and Eddie's relationship.
Yeah.
I found the ending sweet, but completely out of the blue.
I mean, I'm not lying. I watched the film twice, and Lisa was like, oh, so Richie's been in the closet the whole time. I didn't pick up on that at all. I guess like when he was carving his names in the rock or in the board, I just completely blanked. I did not.
Brad was like, I'm always right, me plus my good buddies.
Yeah, I didn't connect that Richie was gay. I just for some reason.
Even with the arcade scene.
I mean, I got that as a scene of like this guy's a bully bullying this guy.
But every kid in the 80s was called that word, according to films.
Well, no, I don't mean just what they were calling him. I just meant by how Finn Wolfhard played like his interaction.
And then when you see the scene where Pennywise is like, I know your dirty little secret, I know your dirty little secret, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, I am dense, all right? Lisa's like, Richie was gay that whole time? I was like, what are you talking about? I did not pick up on that at all.
Yeah.
Because the film is so surface level in that idea.
Yeah, it really is. I guess my last 2 points, but I'm not gonna go deep. Is just the tonality of the film. It just feels like they just went straight comedic with this movie, and even when these characters are in dire situations and the tension is high, like even with Richie and Eddie, like the moment when they get to the 3 doors and all that stuff is playing for laughs. And like you're in this crisis situation where your life is at stake and the film is playing this all up for laughs. And I'm like,
I thought that Pomeranian was pretty cute, though.
I mean, it's funny. And I again, design-wise, I loved the thing that it turned into.
Yeah.
But at times, I felt like Andy Muschietti was trying to make a comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
A 3-hour comedy.
Absolutely.
I was surprised at the amount of humor in this film.
Yeah.
I was genuinely surprised.
I was not expecting that. And I don't know if any of you guys want to bring up Henry Bowers, but I don't know if I like the way his character
That's
was
part
handled.
of my bad.
Yes, I'll leave that. But that's I have more. Probably a lot that you guys have to say, but that's a lot of my bad.
All right. Wife Dork.
I'm continuing on your theme of ideas being picked up and then never really revisited. So with Beverly and her being a sufferer of domestic violence, you don't bring domestic violence into a plot unless you're really going to address it because it is traumatic.
Exactly.
It can be traumatic for some of your viewers.
Well, and also the fact that scene follows immediately after the Mellon murder.
That's right.
And so you have a hate crime and then a domestic abuse.
Okay, yeah.
And, it is about how evil infects and how, it spreads like a virus. That's the book. And I would say that's also the miniseries in a lot of ways.
To me, watching this film, I did not get that sense that Pennywise was somehow responsible for the hate crime at the beginning of the film. They tried to establish in dialogue that that murder was part of an ongoing trend. And then there was also the girl under the bleachers who met Pennywise under the bleachers. But literally, if you took those scenes, if you took the traumatic hate crime, if you took the domestic violence, if you took the little girl being lured under the stairs completely out of the movie, it would have changed nothing. And to me, I think those are some kind of big dramatic guns. Hate crimes, violence against women, violence against children. To bring out and to not use is borderline, to me, irresponsible. And then, to your point, I didn't understand who Henry Bowers was because I didn't see the first film.
Okay.
And so Brad explained to me afterwards that he was kind of like a puppet of Pennywise.
Yeah.
And that he was
The bully as well, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of understood that he had a connection because they showed scenes of him as a younger child. But honestly, you could have taken that as well, and
you can
it wouldn't
take
have
all of Henry Bowers out.
It wouldn't have changed anything for me. So to me, going to your point of this is a 3-hour movie, and for a 3-hour movie to just flagrantly leave ends loose, it's just ridiculous.
Don't understand it.
I have some other things kind of relating to that idea that I'm going to pen underneath my ugly. But for now, I guess I'll just leave it there. That is my bad. The fact that there are so many loose ends left out and so many sensitive topics just flagrantly being abused. That's my bad.
Brad.
Yeah, I have a lot of problems with how all the story is handled and, why are we watching this? And I think, honestly, we broke up it into 2 movies. We had the kids film and now we're having the adult film. But then a lot of this film also deals with them in the past and does recreate the idea of, showing how trauma, it goes into flashbacks. And I don't understand why. Like, if you had your kid's story and you wanted to break up the novel in this way, kid and adult, and then to have the adult story and that still flash back to them as kids, and then, did you even need, does this It Chapter 2 even need Chapter 1?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it does. It basically does what the book does anyway. Now, granted, I think it does it poorly, but it just seemed really weird to have the kid film and then have a film with still a bunch of kid stuff. I don't know. Am I making sense? I feel like I'm being gibberish.
Because they were like trying to separate the yolk from the egg.
And they couldn't.
Then they still wanted to make
because
an
they
omelet
realized
with the second
that the adult story is nothing without the child's story. That it is integral to the experience of it. You have to do it that way. So they go ahead and do it anyway, and still ended up giving us another 2+ hours in the last film.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of time in this movie. 5+ hours. And this has a different cinematographer than It Chapter 1. The cinematographer on this movie is Chico Varese, who did The Arrival and The 33. Not the recent Arrival. I'm talking the Charlie Sheen Arrival.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, back in the day. He's the guy who shot Pacific Rim for Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just think this movie is really ugly.
It is.
And
it's so flat.
The first film I would call overproduced with a lot of the CGI and the filters and the color correction and all that stuff. And this is extremely so. There's that sequence where Pennywise, we see the flashback of the Paul Bunyan statue come after
I know what you're gonna talk
Richie,
about.
right? Like, and the Paul Bunyan statue, again, that's from the book. It's one of the most memorable sequences of any Stephen King novel, and it reads very differently than you would see it. And when you see it, and the way you make it happen in modern cinemas, you're gonna have a big CGI cartoon chasing after him, and it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But then you have the adult sequence where Richie is staring at the Paul Bunyan statue that's now not alive, and Pennywise is sitting on the shoulder of Paul Bunyan, and he's got the balloons, and he floats on down. And as he floats down, the blue sky turns this insane color. It's like this green blue.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I found
it was like a pinkish. Like,
it was so distracting. Like the way it suddenly became like this intensely, oh brother, where art thou? False color scheme. And they play with color a lot in this movie, and for the most part, does not work for me. Maybe I'll give them props for the firefly under the bleachers and how it lights Pennywise's face with an orange reddish glow. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But the rest of the color scheme of the movie, ugly. And phony baloney to match the phony baloney cartoon characters. And because the film is embracing this comedic tone constantly, it just highlights how goofy everything looks, and just did not work. The Chinese fortune cookie sequence.
Oh my God, that took me almost completely out of the film.
What is going on with that baby mosquito bee thing?
Yeah, and everybody kept, like, I haven't read the book, so everybody kept talking, oh man, the Chinese restaurant scene, man, that's going to just, I'm like, okay, so let me see what all this is about. And then that scene happens, and I'm just like, wow, this is
a moment where the 1990 film is effectively scarier than what you see in this film. And it is all practical stuff. It's like a little puppet fetal bird that comes out of one and a little claw, and one explodes in blood. And this climaxes with Mike bashing the hell out of this table in this Chinese restaurant at the Jade of the Orient. And the waitress comes by and goes, "Is everything okay?" And he is demolishing the table. And they're like, "Yeah, check please." And she's like, "Okay." Like, no, that's when you call the cops.
And that's my whole thing with the whole movie. Like, if they know that all of this is an illusion, then why are we going through this multiple times as the movie goes on? Like,
so then you have the ritual of Chud, right? The ritual of Chud. And Mike has gone to the natives and off screen found these natives who have committed this ritual of Chud and have squared off against it in the past. And he tells Bill, that's how we're going to do it. Yeah. That's how they defeated it the first time. That's how we're going to do it. So I need you to go get these tokens and revisit your past. And they go down into the sewer. They go to the battleground where they were as children. They find a little door that has a crazy symbol on it. And they go through that door to Pennywise's home, where the asteroid landed, where Pennywise landed. And they start the ritual of Chud. And they burn all the things, and the deadlights come down, and they're like, turn light into dark, turn light into dark. And they're chanting, and goes into the little ceremonial box. We got it. Then out comes the balloon. You didn't get it, because the ritual Chud is a dud. I love saying that. We keep saying it. And Pennywise goes, Mike, you didn't tell them that this ritual didn't work. And Mike's like, well, I just thought I would believe harder than the Native Americans. We're just going to believe a little harder, and it was going to work. But no, it didn't. And what they result to is the thing that they did in the past. And it works this time. They make him really small, and they take his heart. But again, what's with the deadlights? What's happening? What's the biology of this thing? In the book, and a lot of people talk about how it's an unsatisfying ending. And there's so many jokes in this film about how the author character can't write.
I was going to ask you about that, because I was like, is this meta to the actual book?
Yes. And so if you're going to make all these jokes about how the book's ending is not satisfying, you better pull off a really rad ending. And the ending of the book is they go down further than they went before. They find his origin, and it's a creature. It's a giant spider. Now, it's not literally a giant spider. It's just what the human mind can see. But it is a physical thing that they can kill. And they physically kill it. That makes sense. What happens here does not make sense.
This is dipping into my ugly, but I'll just go ahead and go there since we're already talking about it. What is the message of this film? So these are kids. They called themselves losers. They had to overcome being bullied. In the first film, they had to face their fears. Now they're facing their greatest fear. Turns out it's a big balloon and sometimes a clown. Kind of looks kind of spidery. But the answer of these kids to beat this monster is to bully it? Like, to me, that just seems really
weird.
Dumb. Like, to me, if they're saying, okay, if they wanted to go to the metaphor of, well, there are more ways than physically making something small by making it crawl through a small door. As losers, there are other ways of making things be small or feel small.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that the answer would be for them to give love to Pennywise and go like, you don't have to be like this. We see you as you are. We love you. We accept you. Well, that would be an amazing message.
And what the ritual of Chud does in the book is you are a creature that exists to feed on our fear, and we're not going to give that to you. We're not going to give you our fear. We don't have to be afraid of you.
Yeah.
We're comfortable with ourselves.
Yeah.
Your scare tactics are just games.
Exactly. Now, you're not going to give that control over to him once you know that that's
and
what it is.
instead, this is like, like Lisa's saying, they bully Pennywise to death.
Yeah.
Like, what is that supposed to teach us? Like, you're the ones who bothered to make it a message ending. Why not make it a good message? Especially,
I doubt they think it's a message ending. I think they were just like, we got to do something different than the spider thing.
Mm-hmm. And it still ended up being
of the CGI spider. Yeah.
Which
the clown spider.
To me, like, from what I get from the film, it is supposed to be about people overcoming their childhood trauma so that they can live to be their true selves in their adulthood. I think that is deliberate, and I think that's deliberate in this film. But I think that they fumbled. I just think that they fumbled the ending once again. And I think that there is, like, generally light is the metaphor for good and darkness is the metaphor for evil. And the light being evil is something that comes from the book.
Yeah, the deadlights.
Deadlights. So I think that they could have leaned into that metaphor a little bit more and go like, well, light shows things that were never meant to be seen. Light reveals parts of ourselves that are ugly and parts of ourselves that are not compassionate and parts of ourselves that maybe feed on others to make ourselves feel better. But I just think that this ending is just pathetic.
I'll end my bad there.
For my bad, I agree with what everyone else said. I didn't like that, and it's just a personal preference thing. This movie felt like, and maybe this is what it was supposed to feel. I just don't like. It felt like it didn't feel like a horror movie to me. It felt like a big, like a blockbuster studio film. Like the score, like when they would do something like when they would go in the house, or when they were doing something, there was a score like this, like
the
this
domestic abuse sequence. The score that's on top of the husband beating Beverly is insane.
I think that the score is just another reflection of a profound lack of taste.
Yeah, it just felt like I don't know, like it didn't feel like something. There was no, like when they were in the house, when they were going in there, it felt like something you would score like the Goonies with, like they were about to go. And I understand, I get it, like there's these kids which I mean, they probably want to mimic the feel and the chemistry of the Goonies, but if you're going in this scary house and these kids are going in there to face their fear, they're about to encounter their fear and scary things, and you want the audience to be scared too. Like, don't have some rousing adventure movie score. It was like this adventurous score, and it just felt out of place tonally with the horror movie component of the film, and that took me out of it. And a lot of the comedy. While I thought it was funny, like when Eddie, like what Eddie says to the dude after he stabs him in the chest with the knife about his mullet. While I thought it was funny, like with the amount of humor in the film, it was something else. That was another element that took me further and further away from feeling like it was a horror film.
In the Eddie sequence, when he goes down to the basement of the pharmacy and he struggles with the leper, why does Don't Call Me Angel start? Is that the song?
Yeah.
That pop song start playing when he's spewing sludge out of his mouth.
Like that?
What? Why?
What's the meaning behind? I don't know.
You're not funny.
The performance of the old pharmacy guy just felt weird and out of place to me. I don't know. So tonally, I had issues with the film. It just felt like, 1 minute it felt like a rousing adventure film because of the score. Another minute, they have these needle drops with these songs that don't match tonally with what's going on. Then there are performances that feel really goofy and out of place. So that went a long way to taking me out of the experience, and it kept me from enjoying a lot of the film. And just the use of the CGI, like some of the images with with Pennywise at the end, I felt like they could have just done away with the clown portion of the identity at that point and just gone full
monster
creature. I felt like that would have been more effective. And then going back to what you were saying about the Jade of the Orient sequence, just the effects and the execution of the effects of those things was just really, I didn't find any of it, scary. It just, I don't know. That was probably my main part. My main complaint was I didn't find it scary. And with the old lady, granted, the sound design in that sequence was the scariest thing, but just the execution of what it looked like, I didn't find that scary either. Same thing with the Paul Bunyan thing.
I love that old lady's performance, though.
She was great. Like the actor, she was great.
When she walks by the background totally nude, that gets a good reaction from the crowd.
Yeah.
Because
but
you know what's coming.
Everything else, like I don't know. And I'm not saying like CGI can't be used effectively in films, because there have been plenty of films that do that, but it just, in this particular case, I didn't, I felt like they overdid it.
I wonder what it's like for younger viewers. For me, a heavy reliance on CG in a horror film is very tricky for me to engage.
Absolutely.
Whether it's Uncanny Valley or whatever. I'm trying to think, what was the last horror film that had a really great, effective CG scare? It's probably something like The Ring or something. I don't know. I can't think of one at the moment. To me, it's all about there's probably effective scares that I'm not even aware about because they have masked them with a reality as well, a blending of practical and CG.
Yeah.
But this, not scary.
Not at all.
The Ugly, Brian.
Oh,
All right, because we're pushing It Chapter 2 length.
Oh, okay. This may have been bad, but I guess I'll put it in my ugly. I want to talk a little bit about Stanley.
Yes, this is my ugly
This
also.
is also my ugly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I didn't know, because I literally just thought about this. I was like, is this ugly? But first, when I saw It Chapter 1, because I watched that, and you really kind of get connected to all 7 of these kids. And after the movie, I went back and watched the trailer for 2, and I was like, I don't see Stanley, and I haven't read the book. I was like, I don't see adult Stanley I only see 6 of them. So I was like, what happened to Stanley as an adult? And we find out that, when Mike makes the call, because he was the scaredest, especially in the first It Chapter 1, like the stuff that was happening to him, he was the scaredest out of all of them. And I just don't know how they wrap up his story at the end using his suicide as
what is going
a way
on
to
there?
unite them together.
I found the suicide note straight up offensive.
Yeah,
This
because I don't
idea of
like
somebody
that.
going like, well, my fear would have slowed you down, so I'm going to take myself
out of the equation
by taking my own
Gross.
life. What a disgusting message to give to the young people watching this film.
And that I
And what
didn't
about
like.
his wife?
Yeah,
Right, he had a whole life.
I don't know.
In
It's-
the book, Stanley does kill himself.
Yeah,
and
okay.
and
And
because
the TV series, too.
yeah, in the TV series, because he is terrified.
Okay.
Which I think is like, I'm not going to say like understandable because there's never a good reason
But
to kill
it's
yourself.
an extension of the
That
character
fear.
that we knew, and
Yeah.
and
and it is a reality
it's
that
been
people
so
face.
long since I've read the book, and I've got a copy of it
Yeah.
right here, and I've been trying to go through the ending to see if any kind of letter shows up, and I do not remember, and I do not think that letter comes up.
And that's the thing, because okay, if he commits suicide in the book and that's part of the story, but the whole thing at the end, I just don't understand like how they try to
And
make
You
that
can't
as a
button up a suicide.
Yeah.
And even if that is in the book, it's still gross and disgusting.
yeah, and that just rubbed me the wrong way.
And I think it runs contrary to Eddie's storyline. Because now that Stanley's gone, now Eddie is the scared one. And particularly when we get to the end where he's in the cave and it's really like time for action. Like right before they're going in the hole, Eddie is like, leave me behind. I'm only going to slow you down. I'm only going to get in the way because I cannot function with my fear. And Eddie overcomes that. And Eddie goes down in that hole. And Eddie, even though he meets his end down in that hole, he was still an integral part of taking down Pennywise. And everyone should have the opportunity to live their lives and face their fears and become their best person. And suicide is never okay. There's no suicide note that has ever left anybody going like, there you go. That's much better. That makes a ton of sense
It's
now.
like Peter Bogdanovich said it at the beginning of the movie as the director. He's like, I need a happy ending. And so you're going to make a happy ending out of the suicide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that just rubbed me the wrong way.
Me too. That was my ugly too.
That was my ugly as well. The last thing I'd say is, I love the book and I love Stephen King's universe, and I really love how the book plays in with that universe. And of course, a film, whether it's 5 hours or 10 hours, is going to have a difficult time trying to connect this story into its cosmic reaches where it goes in the novel. Like there's the Great Turtle and how it connects with the beams that hold the Dark Tower up and all this crazy stuff that this film doesn't even touch. And while I acknowledge that maybe the ending of the book was unsatisfying for some, I think it still works quite well. And it's one of Stephen King's best stories. And I really was rooting for this film to work. And it's so frustrating that it doesn't for me. But I've talked to people who really liked it, and but we've just spent an hour plus taking a dump on it.
I just realized that I zoned out during the suicide note thing at the end. 'Cause
Well, bless you.
I didn't get any of
Solid
I
life
didn't.
decision.
That was me with the whole Richie's gay.
Right.
I mean,
I didn't hear. I didn't hear any of that shit. I remember like them reading. I remember James McAvoy opening the letter and then them doing like this montage sequence.
Yeah.
But like whatever was being said, I was zoned out. I was seeing images and stuff, and I was like, all right, is it time for me to go? Like literally, I was like, is it time for me to go? So I didn't catch any of that shit. I just and then I caught like Mike driving in the car, and I was like, oh, okay, that's it. So I didn't catch any of the
Off to Florida he goes.
I didn't catch any of the I did this shit for y'all or whatever. My ugly was gonna be what you brought up earlier about fucking Richie looking at the deadlights, like how he was.
The slack
His
jaw.
his performance was so
It's
great
my
because
favorite point.
he was talking mid heckle and then his body posture, he gets like knock kneaded and his arms drop to his side. Oh my god, it just gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like that was horrifying, but it was so fucking awesome. Yeah, that's oh my goodness. Yeah. That's my ugly because his face was it was a great performance, but I didn't want to keep looking at it because it's like scary. It was like I'm looking into the deadlights. Like I don't want to see that shit.
The whole time that sequence going on is like I just want a one perfect shot that I just want to pull that right out of the movie.
I need a gif of that, like him talking in.
You mean Entertainment Weekly's One Perfect Shot?
All right, that's gonna do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Hit us up on social media at ItModcast and let us know what you thought of the film. You can follow the Turtle Dork at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. You're looking forward to Hustlers this week?
I'm very curious now.
God damn it.
I really am. Yes, go see it, D.
All right. Wife Dork, you can follow her at Sidewalk Siren and at Bake Dork on Twitter and Instagram. She's also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. Wife Dork, what are you looking forward to this week?
Well, I just wanted to let you know, Darren, I have been watching the new season of Great British Bake Off. I love the fact that they're doing it one episode a week.
Okay.
Though I did go, I was like, yeah, I love that there's only one episode of Great British Bake Off available. I watched that one episode, and then Thursday, I'm like, man, let's watch that second episode of Great British Bake Off. And it wasn't there yet.
No,
I was like,
damn
what?
it.
But it drops on Sunday, which
Okay.
means I got to watch the second.
It's on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're starting to do
New seasons.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think
one episode at a time. I'm very happy about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm digging the new cast. I'm getting to know the new contestants. They've already had their cake week and their biscuits week. Somebody attempted to make a church organ out of twills. I'm like, that's freaking cool. I want to make a biscuit tower. Yeah. So I guess I'm really just living from Sunday to Sunday for my GBB.
All right. Sounds good. Brad, you can find him at MouthDork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. Are you also looking forward to Hustlers?
I am looking forward to Hustlers. But more importantly, we're recording this on September 8th, which is Star Trek Day, 53 years ago. Today was the premiere of the Man Trap episode of the original series, launching the beautiful franchise that we have. And on Sunday, next Sunday, I have tickets to see Star Trek The Motion Picture's 40th anniversary screening at the AMC Tyson's Corner, new restoration of it. So I'm super excited to see that.
It's at 4K?
I think it's 4K. Yeah.
On Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday.
What time?
It's at 4:00. We need to talk about recordings.
Oh, okay. I was going to say. All right. You can follow me at the Disco Dork on all social medias. I can't say that I'm looking forward to it, but I'm going to go see Hustlers because apparently that's our review cast. So, ladies and gentlemen, I guess you would do well to go check it out too. So
I'm making a prediction right now, Darren. We're going to like Hustlers more than It Chapter 2.
I hope so.
You know
I
what?
love
It has a very low bar to clear, so I wouldn't even be surprised. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see Cardi B. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Until next time. You know I can do that shit.